Before we get into today's video, let me introduce myself. I'm KJ, also known as KJ Smooth, or you can call me Omar. And I've been streaming console Valorant ever since the release of the closed beta. Twitch.tv/KJ Smooth. I'm so shameless, bro. Anyways, I did play Valorant on PC. Well, the beta. Let's just say I was trash. So Valorant console was a blessing to me because I can only play on controller. I don't think I'm the only one either. So in this video, we're going to go over my personal settings that I've got on my Valorant account. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So I waited a couple of weeks before making my first settings video because I wasn't really confident in the things that I'd be putting out in a video. But now we're a few weeks into the beta, I can confidently say these are the settings that I'm comfortable with. And lucky for me, some settings options have changed since the release, so there might be some stuff in here that you haven't seen yet. So without further ado, put your phone down, get off TikTok. It's time to pay attention. Let's start with focus mode. Focus mode is a new aim style that got added in specifically for console Valorant. Essentially, it allows you to have two different sensitivities whilst keeping a similar FOV to just hip fire. It's worth noting that focus mode is a little bit weird on some guns. If you don't use focus on a classic, it will only free burst. And for obvious reasons, focus mode doesn't work on an operator. Personally, I like focus mode. Now, if you do want to use focus mode, I would heavily suggest turning walk while in focus off. I've seen a lot of newer players use this as a little bit of a crutch, and you should probably learn to walk a different way. Some people in the console community do say using focus mode itself is a crutch, or they say it's for bad players. In my opinion, if you kill your enemy first, does it really matter? Even the #1 Radiant on EU uses focus mode. If you are enjoying this video so far and you want to help a brother out, you can press like and you can press subscribe. But without further ado, let's get into the settings. So let's start with map settings. Now, map settings are kind of preference. There is a few settings which will make the map much bigger so you can see more of what's going on. Now, rotate map with player is kind of preference. I prefer to have it off. I then turn keep player centered off. I then turn the minimap size down to 0.9. Then I put the minimap zoom to 0.9. What this is going to allow you to do is to see a lot more. As you can see by the footage here, my map is much bigger in the game. Now, we're going to quickly go through these. So content filter, this is just preference. If you don't like seeing blood, turn it off. If you don't like seeing corpses, turn it off. I said these don't really matter too much. And there's not much in privacy unless you're a streamer. I turn streamer mode on, so it hides my name from people outside my party. And on other, I've just left everything as default. So for controls, this is where it changes depending on what situation you are in. So for me, I have left this on Valorant and I will explain to you why. I use a DualSense Edge controller. This controller allows me to have almost instant triggers and I have 2 extra buttons on the back of my controller. Therefore, I do not need to play any of the other options because this works perfect for me. Now, if you don't have any type of pro controller, bumper shooter might be worth looking into for yourself. So for those with a pro controller, I map my crouch and my jump button to the back of my paddles. Now, I've definitely seen people map their walk button to the back of their paddles. Personally, I don't do that. The person who I duo with does do that, and I've heard good things about it. My button settings, all default. Now here, this is where we get into the aim sensitivity setting. Make sure you toggle on advanced sensitivity settings. For whatever reason, when the beta came out, this toggle didn't exist, and settings that you were changing were the newly advanced settings. The non-advanced settings is just one sensitivity for everything. So make sure you turn it on. So for my settings, I like to go over 12-12 base and a 5-5 focus. My base is on a heavy curve and my focus is on light. Now, when I first started playing this game, I did play on 6-6 light, but genuinely the sensitivity was too slow. You need a sensitivity where you can quickly shoot util and then flick back to where your enemy is going to swing you from. And now with sensitivity, there's no right or wrong answer, but if it's too low, you're going to be limiting yourself on what you can do. I would definitely say 12-12 is kind of minimum if you're using focus mode. My settings are specifically for people who use focus mode. So for focus mode, I've gone with 5-5 light curve. I only use focus mode when I'm holding an angle or if I'm actually in the act of shooting. I prefer a slightly lower sense than normal to give me the most accurate micro adjustment. And if I need to flick away, my higher base sensitivity helps me do that. As for my aim, inner and outer dead zones, I have pretty severe stick drift. Basically left these untouched. But yeah, when it comes to dead zones, I would play around with them because, you know, as console players, we've all got different levels of stick drift. If you wanted to lucky people without stick drift, you can turn these settings down a little bit. But for us with stick drift, yeah, I gotta keep mine up. So for my crosshair settings, honestly, I don't do nothing too crazy, bro. I've made sure to turn outer lines off, inner lines off. And because I wear glasses, I can't really see. So I've made the center dot fitness a 4. And that's the same across all my sites. So here we got some bonus tips for you, bro. I started with a much lower sensitivity of 6-6 and I worked my way up slowly. I went from 6-6 to 8-8 to 12-12. If you're struggling to play on a high sensitivity, I recommend you do exactly what I did. Start low and work your way up until you're comfortable and then stick with that sensitivity. If you've had one bad game, don't just go and instantly switch all of your settings. These games happen. I would only consider doing this if you feel like your settings are actually holding you back. For example, you can't flick fast enough to shoot util. Now to conclude this, sensitivity is purely preference. To an extent, it It doesn't really matter. As long as you're playing high enough to where you can comfortably shoot util and flick back to your enemy, play with the sensitivity that you feel comfortable with. Drop a comment below with the settings that you use and let me know your opinion on focus mode. It's been KJ Smooth and I'm out. Peace.